Here we are. Here's my 2 cents with me, your host, Keith 2 Cent Sanders. It is October 6th. We got a lot to go over tonight. It is Purple Pen Night. I think you all know what that means. It means it's pretty serious. And if you follow me for any amount of time, you know that pretty much every night has been Purple Pen Night since somewhere around January 21st, 2021, just round about on that exact date. Everything has been an S show. Haven't sworn in 2 episodes. Juan, I want some credit for that. If you guys don't know, Juan is the producer behind the scenes. He's put this whole thing together. Always like to give him kudos because he's the man working everything behind the scenes for us. Lots to go on, but there's something just sort of on the tip of my tongue I think we need to talk about, just you and me. I need to know about the mustache. Let me just know. I want you to know right up front, I didn't lose a bet. I chose to do this. So the way it came to be, just because we'll be a little transparent, we'll have a little fun here real quick. I think you all know that I had to do an emergency landing last year. I got pretty messed up. And part of it was I have a pretty serious scar right here, and I've never seen it. So the other day I was like, you know what? I want to see what that looks like. So I shaved it off. And then when I was doing it, I go, you know what? I'm going to leave this mustache here. And I was telling Juan, this mustache makes me look like the kind of person that knows how a diode works. And I can tell you all about the things that you can buy at Radio Shack. I'm that guy now. The mustache does that. And I don't care who you are. You know exactly what that means. I don't even know if that's a bad thing. But we're having a little bit of fun. You guys know when we come here, it's not all just doom and gloom, because I just can't let it be like that. I just have to have some fun. I appreciate when you guys are here. Please interact with the video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, follow, wherever you're seeing us. Share it with your friends. You know you're going to get no BS, just the facts here. And I do appreciate you guys coming back and sharing this with your friends. A couple of really, really big topics, and then maybe we'll get into some more of the peripherals out there. Let's start off with the biggest one. We're in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. I live down here in Florida. And let me kind of do it the Quentin Tarantino way. I'm going to give you the end first, and then I'll tell you how we got there. Ron DeSantis is doing an amazing job, flat, bar none. And I'm going to give you how I know, and you're going to go, oh, yeah, that is true. Are you seeing coverage about his efforts wall to wall? You're not. If he had slipped on a banana, tripped over a pebble, or scratched the side of a car, it would be non-stop 24/7 24/7. I speak English, I swear I do. 24/7 coverage of how awful he is, but you're not. Like, for example, let's just go to CNN right now. Their top stories are talking about the victims of Hurricane Ian. This is probably their best bet at trying to make it look like DeSantis isn't doing a good job. And then you got them talking about what's going on in Ukraine. And then, of course, the OPEC failure, which, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that one a little bit later. This is going as well as it could go. Let me take a step back. I want to be very clear here. One loss of life is one too many. And I want everyone to know that I understand this. I think everyone who's responding to this understands this. It is also true that in a natural disaster of this magnitude, there's going to be loss of life. We're not saying we accept it. We're not saying it's okay. What we're saying is we know it's going to happen, so how can we mitigate it? How can we minimize it? How can we keep it as low as possible? We know it's going to happen. We don't control everything. For example, we don't control where it lands. So what can we do to be best prepared in the lead up? And then what can we do in the follow through, in the aftermath, to make sure that people aren't losing their life when it could have been saved? And DeSantis is doing a fantastic job. And again, it's because there isn't wall-to-wall coverage that you know he's doing a good job. Real quick, let me talk to you about an article there, because he's obviously rerunning for governor against Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist is a former Republican governor who then turned independent, who voted with the Democrats in the Florida legislature and then ran as a Democrat. So that's his opponent. I'm going to read you an article about that here in a moment. Think about that. You're a voter. Some guy ran your state as a Republican. They ran all the attack ads they could possibly think of against this guy. You voted against this guy. He then runs for state legislature. He doesn't go up to Washington. He stays here in Florida as an independent, caucuses with the Democrats, and then runs the Democrat. You're going to vote for that? You think that guy's here for you? Or is that guy here for him? does that guy want to say whatever he has to say to sit his butt in a chair? That guy isn't here for anybody but him. That ad runs itself. I don't know how the guy's running on this. Run on when he was a Republican. That's all you got to do. Talk about when the guy was a Republican. Then he turned independent, and then he turned Democrat. This guy is clearly saying whatever has to be said in order to try to get elected, which, by the way, he loves to throw in CNN, I think even on MSNBC, trying to talk about that they're in a statistical dead heat. They're within the margin of error. He's going to get blown out. He's going to get blown out. If it wasn't from how DeSantis is handling this hurricane, how DeSantis handled COVID, you got Democrats that like what he did. You have lifelong Democrats. I'll give you an anecdotal, but this is a 100% true story. I flew to the other side of the state with my daughter. This is the summer of 2020. So Florida is starting to open up, and the rest of the country is losing their minds collectively, how horrible Florida is going to get everybody killed. Florida's starting to open up. And DeSantis, of course, saying independent businesses, you can do what you want, but you're not going to have these mandates, and you're not going to do these things to your employees. But if you want to tell people to wear a mask in your store, I can't tell you otherwise. Okay, give you a little bit of backstory here. So I go over to the other side of the state with my daughter, and I'm talking with a liberal. I mean, I said to myself, go in there. It was my daughter's friend's mother. I said, I'll be cordial. We don't have to talk politics. It's fine. We just want to bring it up. We're going in and out of these stores, and we find ourselves standing outside, getting a little, and I know something's going to get said, and I don't say anything. And she out of nowhere goes, so DeSantis. And I go, yeah. He goes, he's right. And I go, he's right. And she's a lifelong liberal. She worked previously at Planned Parenthood. This is the type of liberal we're talking about. And in the height of this thing, she was saying that DeSantis was doing it the right way. So fast forward to he opened the schools before everyone else. He kept the businesses open. He wouldn't allow the mask mandates and the at the federal level to be pushed down and all the other things. He protected us because that's what federalism is. He's there to protect us from the government above him. And he did a fantastic job, and people were allowed to live their lives. And you still have morons down here trying to use the moniker Death Santis. Okay, you're still going with that one? Take a look at his numbers versus California versus New York versus other huge population states and see where we are. We actually did a lot better than those lockdown states. That's an easy kill on that one. So we got Charlie Crist. Okay, he isn't in the chair right now. And when he was governor, he actually didn't have any hurricanes that he had to deal with. But if you listen to Don Lemon, and he grew up there, we're getting more and more hurricanes, and they're getting stronger and stronger. But Charlie Crist, when he was governor between 2017 and I think it was 11 through 17. I think I'm close in there. He didn't have to handle any of the hurricanes. But unfortunately for him, as I'm reading here, pollsters are saying that DeSantis is going to be known as Mr. Hurricane, and not in a bad way. And even though I had mentioned previously that supposedly they're in a statistical dead heat, this polling is showing more like an 11-point percentage difference. DeSantis is also getting more of the Republicans than Crist is getting of the Democrats. This isn't even close. And of course, Crist and his campaign, the Democrats at large, were hoping and praying that DeSantis was going to screw this up. He was hoping. They were all hoping. How morbidly, true is that? Hoping that DeSantis was going to screw this up. And he is not, by any means, screwing this up. But the media being the media, they can't help themselves. Let's see how they're reacting. Juan, can you pull up that clip for me?
Why do you stand behind Lee County's decision to not have that mandatory evacuation until the day before the storm?
Well, where was your industry station when the storm hit? Were you guys in Lee County? No, you were in Tampa. So that's, they were following the weather track, and they had to make decisions based on that. But, 72 hours, they weren't even in the cone. 48 hours, they were on the periphery. So you got to make the decisions the best you can. I will say, they delivered the message to people. They had shelters open. Everybody had adequate opportunity to at least get to a shelter within the county. But, a lot of the residents did not want to do that. I think probably for various reasons. Some people just don't want to leave their home, period. They're island people, whatever. But I think part of it was so much attention was paid to Tampa that I think a lot of them probably thought that they wouldn't get the worst of it. So, but they did. And I think it's easy to second guess them, but they were ready for the whole time and made that call when there was justifiable to do so.
If you continue to watch that clip, and I didn't want to make this whole show about that clip, that reporter came prepared for the follow-up questions of, Well, neighboring counties had ordered the evacuation. He goes, yeah, which neighboring counties? Oh, you mean Charlotte north of here? You mean Pinellas north of here, which is where Tampa is? Yeah, you want to use that language such as neighboring counties did that. So why didn't they do it here? And why do you stand by it? And of course, he's got the mic drop there when he says, where were you? You were in Tampa. That's the best they got. That's what they got. Why didn't you know this thing was going to stop, sit there for 7 hours, and make a 90-degree turn to the east? Everyone was tracking that it was going to go north. He actually makes a great point. As of, I think it was Sunday morning before it hit, it was supposed to go all the way up to the Panhandle. And they were tracking that. And then it moved, and then it moved, and then it moved. And as it moved, you made the necessary adjustments that you needed to make. We're a giant state. 28 million people, I think. It's a giant state. You're going to tell everybody to leave? You went off of the information that you had. And then they also leave out, of course, that he declared the he declared the state of emergency early, making the funding and the resources available. He called up his National Guard early, positioned them. I'm always absolutely flabbergasted by the linesmen that just flood our state. And I don't know if you guys are on TikTok, but oh man, there's some drama. I don't know if you've seen this one. There's some drama with these linesmen. And they're coming down here, they're married, and they're on the dating apps. And oh man, I'm not even going to get into that. But I do give them kudos. I always absolutely tip of the cap. I see those trucks and huge convoys going straight towards the damage, and they're helping folks. And we saw a bunch from Texas this past week, and I made a point to show my daughter and say, hey, they came to us from Texas to help out. And drama aside, they do great work for us. So, but getting back to DeSantis, it comes from his leadership. This is actual leadership. There's no passing of the buck here. There's nothing that he needs to pass the buck on because he's an effective leader. He understands what is necessary of him as a leader, what we expect, what we demand of him as a leader. I mean, I'm not saying he'd be a great president, but I'm absolutely saying he'd be an amazing president. So I want you to keep him in mind. Of course, we all have to see what Trump is going to do. Going forward, everything has to revolve around what Trump is going to do. We know that. But DeSantis is an exemplary executive. He is fantastic, cool, calm, collected. You could see the way that he goes right back at these reporters, and he does it in a cool, calm, collected, controlled way. They want to get a rise out of him. They try to make it seem like he's ineffective, that he's not doing a good job. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's done. He knows that he's made the right decisions. He is a fact-based person, which of course is why they hated him during COVID. He was actually going off of what these studies were showing, what they were doing in countries where they were harder hit. And he was actually adjusting to what was going on rather than being draconian and just finding ways to have more and more power. So I couldn't be more happy with how DeSantis is handling this. I have full faith and confidence that he's going to lead us through this. And I'm sorry, Charlie Crist, you're going to absolutely get destroyed. And the Democrats are going to have to get used to that concept that Florida's red. We are by no means purple anymore. People have flooded this state, and thankfully they've came for conservative principles, and either they were conservative when they came here or they said, you know what, I don't need to change this. I came here for a reason. I don't need to change this. We just flipped all kinds of seats at the school board level. We flipped entire boards for the school boards, and I think we're going to gain even more seats when it comes to our state legislature. We are a red state. I do think that Val Demings, who is running against Rubio, has a lot of money and has a lot of backing. And I think Rubio kind of rubs people the wrong way. I think Rubio, he's not a charming and charismatic person. And so I think that rubs people the wrong way, like I said, and kind of pushes them towards maybe voting for someone because they might not like him. I don't think he's the type of guy where you're like, I think I can have a beer with him. I think he rubs people the wrong way, but he does generally stick to conservative principles when he's in the Senate, when he's representing us up in Washington. But we are a red state, and they're absolutely going to see that. DeSantis was 100% right when it came to his COVID response. He's doing a fantastic job during this hurricane. And of course, all loss of life has been too much. And our thoughts and prayers are with the folks down there. So let's wrap that one up. I want to hit the next one. You might have noticed that the price of oil's gone up a little bit, just a little tiny bit, just a little tiny bit. This one kind of snuck up on us. It was actually going down, and I was glad it wasn't going down due to policy. I'll tell you that right now. It wasn't going down to increasing supply. Releasing the strategic petroleum isn't increasing supply. That's already been drilled. They already know that exists. They already know it's been refined. And then it has to get replaced with oil that's costing more than when the oil was drilled the first time. This hasn't done anything. And they want to try to say things and oh man, they're so good at spinning. They're so good at spinning. Gas has gone down for the last 90 days. They don't put in there anything they did. They just let you connect two dots that aren't even there and say, well, it must be because of you. It must be because the guy running this account right here. That's the reason why. They have done nothing to increase supply. They have done everything to decrease supply. But we have a problem. OPEC, oil producing and exporting countries, OPEC Plus, which includes Russia, has said, you know what? Supply hasn't increased. Demand has drastically decreased, which is lowering the price. I don't want to get that price for my oil. I'm turning off the pumps. Why is that important to us? Because there is a drastic difference when you are energy independent, as we were under Trump, versus shutting down your own supply. Because when you decrease your supply, you are dependent on those that are still producing. So think back to 2016 to 2020, 2017 to 2021. Did you see these crazy spikes? Did you see this up and down roller coaster of prices? No, because we were energy independent. It didn't matter if there was a skirmish in Yemen. It didn't matter that the Saudis were picking on their neighbors. It didn't matter what was going on in Syria. It didn't matter what was going on in Iraq. We stayed relatively level because we were energy independent and we don't have to worry what's going on over there. So what's the Biden administration done? They've shut down drilling in Anwar, which was started by Trump. They've shut down other leases in the Gulf up in Alaska, the Gulf of Mexico, other offshoring. This reduces supply. Reduce supply, the same, if not higher demand, price is going to go up. So what do? We have to go run to our OPEC friends and beg and plead for them to keep the pumps on. And guess what? They said, no, ain't happening. We're actually going to reduce it 2 million barrels a day. Word was it was going to be 1 million. It's 2 million a day, which is more than when they cut it when COVID hit. Because they said, screw you, we ain't doing it. And they know you're not going to turn your pumps on. They know you're not going to renew releasing. They know you're not going to encourage the investment into the oil companies. They know that you're not going to cut red tape. They know that you're going to ride this out. So what does Biden now do? He has to beg and plead because we're at the mercy of what other countries are going to do due to policy. And rather than change policy, which is a short-term and long-term fix, he's going to put a little itty-bitty Band-Aid on a massive sucking chest wound. All my military types know what a sucking chest wound is. We all, yeah, one is not in his head. And we all get told about a sucking chest wound and how you're supposed to treat it. Anyway, I just want you to think of a giant hole in your chest and you're breathing through your chest. You ain't solving that problem with a Band-Aid. It's not going to happen. And the Band-Aid is Biden's going to go ahead and release 10 million barrels out of the strategic reserve, which is going to have to backfill with higher cost of oil to backfill that. Why? They're going to spin it as, well, we want to help the American worker and the low-income family. No, you don't want prices to go back up due to your policy right before the midterms. God forbid we see the effects of your policy. It's tricking the low information voter. It's tricking the people that don't understand what's going on. It's tricking people into voting for them. God forbid, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Look at them just showing up on my front doorstep like that. It's not even lipstick on a pig. It's just an overt lie in your face. They're doing absolutely everything they can to make it look like their policies haven't done this. Their policies have reduced supply, and now they're trying to put lipstick on it by just throwing oil at the situation. But OPEC is turning off the pumps, and I've had people telling me already, as this was in the lead up, they were seeing a 20, 30, 40 cent jump. It's going to happen again. And I'm sorry, I don't want American families to be struggling. But I think the American worker and the American family has forgotten what that price was like over the summer. Just a few months ago. Just a few months ago when it was $5. Holy cow, the average was over $5. And then we get down into the mid threes and everybody's acting like that's not a problem. Like we're just okay accepting 360 because it ain't $5. It was $1.85. It was $2.20 tops for 2016 to 2021. But it goes through the roof. It starts to come down. By no means of of Biden whatsoever, not policy change. Simply because the price got so high that the demand had to go down. And when demand goes down, price goes down. And then they want to try to, in some way, shape, or form, take credit for this. And God forbid we see the effects of their policy. I don't want the American people to hurt. I don't. However, I do want the American people to see the results of voting Democrat. They were starting to get momentum, the Democrats were. Because, of course, they're being fed nonstop that Biden's doing a great job. He put the aviators back on. He's going to spend a whole bunch more money. Nobody's ever going to see effects of this damn money that they're spending. We're just going to keep spending money in a recession, which is what happens when you have 2 consecutive quarters of a shrinking economy, which we do. And you're going to see the jobs numbers continuing to decrease. You're going to see the layoffs come. You're going to see the interest rates continue to go up. And even though CNN is running block for them, saying this isn't really a travesty as the White House was trying to say it was going to be. No, it's not really. It's not really that bad. I mean, just always leave it to CNN to jump through hoops in order to run cover for them. I don't want American people to get hurt. I really want to really nail that down. But I want people to understand and remember the effects of what voting Democrat has done. Hasn't even been 2 years. It hasn't even been 2 years. That meteoric rise of an economy that we had was based off of Trump and conservative policies. I'm going to pull up a little information here for you. On January 22nd, the day after Biden took office, I'm going to pull that exact date for you. The stock market was 30,996. Today, it finished at 30,273. In the middle, let's call it October, end of October of 21, it was almost 36,000. And that's when it started to go down. Because it's almost like printing a bunch of money increases inflation. It's almost like these jobs numbers were not, I'm sorry, I don't believe everything I read, were not what they say they were. It's almost like that, but probably not, right? Probably because the media's telling us nothing but the truth. Everything that was gained is gone. I don't know if you have a 401k. I do. It's garbage. I'm losing money. I put money into it every paycheck and I'm losing money. It's insane. And we don't even have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about it. The media isn't going to talk about it. The economy is absolutely tanking. They're going to do absolutely everything they can to get through the midterms. They're going to do everything they can to disguise the effects of their decisions. And if that isn't enough for you, if that isn't going to get you to vote for them, remember, a vote for Republicans is a vote for January 6th, is a vote for insurrectionists. Remember that, folks. Do you want to vote with us or do you want to vote with the evil people? This is what they're running on. And I know I said it last week, but give me a policy that they're running on. Give me any kind of a policy that they're running on. There's not one policy that I could see that anybody's running on. It's save our democracy. We have to save our democracy. And then even for that, they're not even referencing anything that is a threat to democracy. They don't even bring up the Georgia voter integrity laws, which was their favorite from last year, Jim Crow 2.0. Remember that nonsense? Well, we have record turnout for voting after they supposedly put in these laws to suppress the vote. We have record turnout of minorities voting. Can't report on that anymore. But we can scream it's the end of democracy. Vote for us to save the democracy. Based on what? Based on what? Vote for us or vote for evil. Based on what? January 6th? There's not one Republican I know that hasn't denounced that. I've denounced it 1,000,000 times over. Don't go in there, I've said. There was nothing good was going to come from that. You gave them what they wanted. You gave them 2 years of TV. You gave them 2 years of free ads against Republicans. We're not Democrats. We're not liberals. We can't burn a city down and then get a chyron at the bottom that says fiery but mostly peaceful. You get people breaking the law, they're going to get tried for it. We're not liberals. We can't do that. Those folks got lulled into that. I have denounced it time and again. So they're going to run on this. That's all they can run on. They can't run on policy. It's nothing. What has worked? And then somehow they got through more spending, like I mentioned a moment ago. And then they're going to blame that it was somehow Trump and the Republicans that's the cause for inflation because they didn't vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, which we know doesn't fight inflation, but it fights costs. And by fighting costs, they really mean that it's going to fund Obamacare, which was a sleight of hand trick and a shell game they did to try to say that Obamacare was funded. And Obamacare wasn't as expensive as it really is. A lot of people lost that in the Inflation Reduction Act. It was actually a continuation of funding Obamacare, which allowed them to go essentially retroactively and say, yeah, Obamacare isn't that expensive, but I'm going to refund it again under a different act, a different name. And then we're going to call it cutting costs. And then we're going to make that synonymous with inflation reduction. Because this is the world we live in. Because 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore. Definition of woman has changed. Definition of recession has changed. We can just make up any terms that we want. We can just change any terms that we want. Because we got the media and we got control of the federal government. But not for long. Because what am I going to hit you over the head with today? Same thing. Every time you see me, I'm going to hit you over the head with this. You're going to vote. And if you haven't registered, you're going to get online and you're going to find out how to get yourself registered. And you're going to make sure you have an ID. And you're going to vote in person. And we're going to make the statement. We're going to take this back in big numbers. And I think this price increase that's about to come is going to wake people back up again. And I don't like that term, but I think that folks, they got complacent with it. They fell asleep. They fell asleep at the wheel. They started to like the idea of $3.60 gas because it's not $5 gallon gas, right? You're going to get out and vote. You're going to tell your friends to vote. You're going to nag them. You're going to bug them. You're going to make sure you get out there on voting day with your ID. You're not just going to get out there and vote alone. Well, it looks like we're getting close to the end. I'm going to be back every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You know you can always find me on the TikToks at 2cent_KSJ because I took away my first account, but whatever, I do what I do. But also find me on Twitter, 2cent_KSJ, and come on back next week. We'll see you then.